understand Vladimir Putin, and they think he's a monarch with absolute power, which is not true. And Russian politics is complex and it's lively, and Putin is very concerned with his approval rating within Russia. He cannot appear weak. That's a huge threat to him. He feels that. That's a huge threat to him. He feels that. People in Washington misunderstand Vladimir Putin, and they think he's a monarch with absolute power, which is not true. And Russian politics is complex and it's lively, and Putin is very concerned with his approval rating within Russia. He cannot appear weak. That's a huge threat to him. He feels that. Russia, he cannot appear weak. That's a huge threat to him. He feels that.
We either get this government back on our side or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them.
Just moments ago, we learned that President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General will remove his name from consideration. Matt Gaetz says he's out. And all this comes. Yes, sir.
I'm not judging you.
I think you've now got it all over your hands.
I'm just kidding.
Dried skin and hairspray.
Ew. I'm not judging you. I used to have really bad dandruff, actually. But mine was like chemical burns.
Oh.
Just I dyed my hair so much. Now my dog has dandruff.
Is that true?
Little Bear,
Little
yeah.
Bear?
Yeah, he has super dry skin. He was like born with dry skin.
Oh my gosh. Little Bear has a lot of problems.
I found him
Yes.
because make sure everything was grain free and
Mm.
make sure he's allergic to Florida. So every time we come inside from a walk, I clean his feet. Bath once a week. The past few weeks.
Does he like baths or does he fight you?
No.
Oh my gosh.
He does not like that.
That's what's up.
And I will say he is very helpful. I'll like I clean one side of him at a time. He lets me like put him around the middle. Just easier for me to clean.
Oh wow. Isabel says he's very polite. She says he's a polite dog. He says hello and that's what she said. He just like, kind of licked her nose. And... So interesting. Yeah, that's just, he doesn't like maul you. He just comes and does one. Like, what a guy. Hello, Victor. How are you? Okay. Just learned moments ago that President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General will remove his name from consideration. Matt Gaetz is out. And while all this happens as President Washington tries to push us closer to the brink of full-scale world war. The shot that I'm looking at.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
In the record end, I want them to boost it up and make the colors brighter. I want the record to look more like 3. On the actual record, if we could get it that bright. Are we able to do that? That's what it's going to come out at, like? Yes, let's bring it up a little bit more vibrant. A little more vibrant. Because I'm still adjusting it a little bit on the other side. Still adjusting in post. I don't want to do that. Thank you. Okay. Oh, Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for doing this. Excited to talk to you about the lunacy that is taking place around the world.
Yeah.
Great. We got like about a 2-minute lead up, and then I'll come to you.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Just a little bit. What's that? Okay, then we'll leave it like that. We'll leave it like that. Yep. That's fine. Yeah, I'm having to like adjust the brightness in post, but that's fine. Not hard. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. You too. Moments ago. Breaking today, we have learned that Well, breaking today, President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General, Matt Gaetz, has now removed his name from consideration. Why exactly did he do that? All of that as permanent Washington seems to be gearing up to bring us to the brink of war. I'm Ben Swan. This is Truth in Media. And we begin with that breaking news out of Washington today, where Matt Gaetz on X confirming that he has removed his name from Attorney General consideration, saying that he did not want to be a, quote, distraction from the critical work of the Trump administration. This decision comes amidst reports of opposition from 4 Republican senators and personal allegations, including an alleged second sexual encounter with a minor. Matt Gaetz announced his withdrawal just before news of these allegations was set to be publicized.
We either get this government back on our side or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them.
Oh, Matt Gaetz, what did they have on you? What did they have on you? I think we know. It sounds like we know, but we don't really know. But we think we do. Meanwhile, all this happening as Washington is set to drive us further towards a hot war with Russia. This story continues to develop all week long. They've been trying to make this happen, and overnight, Russia has responded to Ukraine firing missiles into their territory by launching new missiles targeting the Ukrainian city of Dnipro. You see some of the video right there. These warheads, discontinued in 2017, are back in production. They are not designed yet for massive destruction, but they send a very clear message. Russia has weapons capable of reaching any target in Ukraine or any target in Europe. The move is a clear response to Washington's approval this week for Ukraine to attack Russian soil using American-made ATACMS missiles. Those missiles require American soldiers to launch and to guide. The Ukrainians cannot do it alone. Make no mistake about how this works. This is not Ukraine firing and guiding missiles. It is the United States and European allies who are launching attacks from Ukraine for Ukraine against Russia. And that, by definition, is an act of war. Yet Biden has not sought congressional approval, nor has Congress demanded any accountability. Instead, lawmakers are debating whether or not to forgive, get this, over $4 billion in Ukrainian debt. Why not? That's only your tax dollars, my tax dollars. At least Congressman Thomas Massie has stepped forward, introducing legislation to end what he is calling the America Last policy. But the larger issue is this. Is the White House setting the stage for a global war with about 60 days before the Trump administration is able to take control? They want to provoke, they want to escalate, and they want to sow fear. And all of this, you might think, is to stop the evil genius Vladimir Putin, who is an autocrat, who is basically running a monarchy and can do anything he wants in Russia, right? Well, actually, that's not true. Listen to something that Tucker Carlson said just today.
People in Washington misunderstand Vladimir Putin, and they think he's a monarch with absolute power, which is not true. And Russian politics is complex and it's lively, and Putin is very concerned with his approval rating within Russia. He cannot appear weak. That's a huge threat to him. He feels that.
He cannot appear weak. So what would make him look weak? I don't know, maybe allowing the West to fire rockets into your country, blowing up targets, and there be no retribution. See, Putin isn't just some evil genius. He is a politician acting on political survival and on national interest. And by comparison to some in his own government, he's almost a moderate. That's why Putin has reportedly announced that he is open to ceasefire talks right now, but only if they're led by Donald Trump. Imagine the optics there. The incoming administration could end a war that has raged throughout Biden's presidency. It's humiliating for the current administration and the hidden players behind the scene who are clearly running the show, because the question is, who are they? Well, they are the defense contractors. They are war profiteers. They are permanent Washington. They're the ones with politicians in their pockets. And these entities exist to enrich themselves using war as their business model. And it's all funded with our tax dollars. At the end of the day, they don't just thrive on conflict. They absolutely depend on it. Joining me now to discuss is a man who knows perfectly well about the tactics of permanent Washington. He is the host of the Jimmy Dore Show, none other than Jimmy Dore himself. Jimmy, good to have you here.
Good to see you, Ben. Thanks.
All right, so let's talk about this. First of all, I think there is an enormous misunderstanding, or maybe it's just a lack of information that's going out to the public about these ATACMS missiles that are being fired by the Ukrainians, as we laid out here. This is not something simply where the Biden administration told Ukraine, hey, listen, we've been thinking about it, and actually you need to go ahead and fire these missiles into Ukraine, and yeah, we're going to provide them. It is actually much bigger than that, because these missiles cannot be operated by the Ukrainians. It has to be either U.S. military personnel or military personnel from some NATO country like France that is guiding them and helping to launch them. That is an act of war, and it's a provocation towards Russia that I think most people don't recognize is actually happening right now.
Yes, well, of course, Joe Biden did not run on that platform. He didn't run on, hey, let's start a hot war with Russia. Let's send our soldiers to send ATACMS missiles inside Russia. Right now, I've heard Scott Ritter is reporting that Putin and Russia are getting ready for assault on Kiev. So it's again as Julian Assange has taught us, these wars are not meant to be won; they're meant to be ongoing, and that's exactly what's going on because the people in Ukraine want peace. The people in Russia want peace. In fact, if Ukraine would have abided by the Minsk peace accords, there would have never been a war. If they would have abided by the peace agreement that they had worked out in April of 2022, this would be over already. But this isn't about the actual people. And as we know, people like to say that Vladimir Putin is some kind of dictator, monarch. The person right now who's ruling illegally is Zelensky. Zelensky's term expired a long time ago, and the people don't support what he's doing. The people want him to do the exact opposite. And so, again, we're not supporting democracy. We're not supporting freedom or peace. We're just run completely. The Western world is run completely by psychopathic war maniacs from the war machine. Yeah. I mean, it's to be clear. And, it's just amazing to me how every war in my lifetime, from Vietnam, they lied to us. The media, the government lied through 4 different presidents. They lied about Iraq twice. They lied about Afghanistan for 20 years, lied about Libya, lied about Syria, Yemen, Somalia. But when it comes to Ukraine, all my friends in Hollywood just seem to go, they must be telling the truth this time.
Right.
I don't understand when the American people are going to wake up to this. They did vote for Donald Trump, who did promise to end the Ukraine war. Yeah. So at least you have that. You have the majority of people voting for that. But when are they going to actually stand up and do something? When are the people going to try to stop this? Doesn't look like ever. And it looks like we really are teetering. We have to now rely on a person that they call a madman. They call a thug and a murderer, Vladimir Putin. We have to rely on his restraint to keep us out of nuclear war. So that's all we can do is pray that Vladimir Putin is the grown-up in the room, because it certainly isn't the Biden administration, which are full of psychopathic neocons.
Well, I mean, that's such an incredible point, and you're absolutely right. Right now, the sole person on the planet who is keeping us out of World War III is Vladimir Putin. He's the only one right now. And to the other point you made, which is that it looks like the Russians are gearing up for a major assault on Kiev. I've heard the same thing, that it looks like that is likely going to happen soon, because Putin doesn't have a whole lot of choice here. As we mentioned, he's a politician. He has to respond to his own people, who many of them have wanted him to crush Ukraine, which he could have done had he wanted to a long time ago. He has shown a lot of restraint throughout this process. So here's the question. If we take a step back and think about what has just happened, not only did the Biden administration refuse for 3.5 years to give this permission for these missiles to be fired into Russia, but to allow this to happen here in the last 2 months before they're out of power, to allow this to happen is going to literally be responsible. If there is a major attack on Kiev, which it looks like there will be thousands upon tens of thousands of deaths likely as a result of that. Deaths that could have been absolutely prevented had you just stopped and stood in place after the American people overwhelmingly voted to end this nonsense. The American people, listen, it's not just the economy. They like to say it's the economy, stupid, the people voted for. It's not just the economy. There was a resounding call by the American people to get us out of this war, to stop funding Ukraine, to stop funding Zelensky, to stop funding Israel. There's a call from people to slow down and to end this and to watch this ramp up. It's despicable to think the people who are going to die as a result of this ramping up of this war right now, again, less than 60 days before Trump takes office.
Well, it's just amazing that, often I try to tell my audience that whatever the mainstream establishment corporate media is saying, the exact opposite is usually true. So they always paint that Donald Trump is a madman and a psychopath and reckless, and we can't allow that guy to have his finger on the nuclear button. The exact opposite is the case. Donald Trump actually is the only hope that we have for peace and to end these regime change wars, to end this escalation in Ukraine. And it's the exact opposite. Joe Biden is not the adult in the room. He's the demented puppet of the war machine in the room. And and here's a bigger question too. Now, so I said at the show exactly when this war started that this war is going to end exactly how Russia wants it to end. And so it'd be best for Ukraine to do a peace agreement as soon as possible. But of course, NATO through Boris Johnson sabotaged that peace agreement. But in that peace agreement, Putin and Russia had agreed to allow Ukraine to join the European Union. Is that going to still be on the table? Not to join NATO, but to join. So now it's just going to be completely dictated by Putin. And you're right. He's a politician. He has to show strength. And again, it's more it's just the people you still see on social media with the Ukraine flags in their bio. They have no idea what they're doing or what they're encouraging or what they're allowing to happen. We're not there trying to help the people of Ukraine. Our own government doesn't care about the people in the United States, let alone people in the Ukraine. What they're doing is actually using those people for slaughter, for cannon fodder, to enrich the war machine. This is just another transfer of wealth from the U.S. Treasury to the war machine. That's all this is.
They make themselves rich, as you said, over the dead bodies of people across the world. But at this moment, that includes people in Ukraine. One more question for you. You mentioned about Joe Biden's not the adult in the room. Joe Biden, he's not even in the room, right? Biden is so gone. He's been gone now for at least 6 months, where he's done absolutely nothing. Kamala Harris, since the election, since the day after the election, right, has been completely MIA. Haven't seen her at all. So who's doing this? Is it Anthony Blinken? Is it Jake Sullivan? Who do you think it is that is pushing this right now? Because no one seems to have their hand on the wheel. At least no one who's been voted for in any election has their hand on the wheel.
Well, of course, those are the major players. Your Jake Sullivan's, your Anthony Blinkens, and so those are the people who are really calling the shots. But of course, I'm sure they get their directions from other people inside the war machine. The donor class. That's who really runs not only America but the Western world. It's a handful of billionaires, and we don't really live in democracy. We live in an oligarchy, which was proven by a Princeton study over 10 years ago.
That's right.
And so, the people in government are just puppets. And there's a permanent state, right? So that's another thing you have to look at. So there's the people who don't go in and out with each administration, the people who are there forever. So it's way worse than people can imagine. The corruption is 100%. And so anybody, it's just like the fact-checking organizations that have propped up over the year. Those people they're the opposite of fact-checkers. They're propaganda pushers. And the same thing when these people say, we want peace and we're standing up to Putin. No, you're actually provoking Putin. You're the warmongers. And it'll never get reported that way on the establishment media. We have to rely on people like you to get the message out. But apparently half the country got the message, but apparently they're not going to do anything about it. They're not protesting. There's no I don't know what they could actually do, but I don't think people realize how bad this is. It's not only bad for the people of Ukraine, but it's bad for Europe in general. I mean, look, they allowed the United States to blow up the pipeline to Germany, which is the economic engine of Europe, and nobody did anything. Nobody said anything in Germany. Nobody said anything in Europe. We just let it happen, and so now they're paying the price. Ukraine's paying the price. We're paying the price back in the United States, and we're on the verge of maybe a nuclear war. So it's just amazing to watch this happen because it doesn't get reported the way it should be reported, the way you're reporting it right now in corporate media. So people think everything's okay.
That's right. Everybody thinks everything's okay, and they're just waiting for Trump to take office, and we'll see what happens on the way there. Jimmy Dore, nobody does it better. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
And that is our show for today. Thank you for joining us. You can catch all of our latest coverage. Check us out on X at @truth_in_media. And you can watch all of our full episodes right now at truthinmedia.com.